Okay, this is our phases and changes activity. All right, so if you're doing this at home, be careful. Safety concerns, right? We're dealing with glass and hot water and water, period. So if you drop something, be careful if it breaks. If you're holding things that are wet, just watch out. They may be slippery, especially if you spill water. You don't want to slip on the floor, so make sure you wipe it up right away. And we're not looking to deal with hot water that is boiling. We don't want anything to get burnt, but something less than boiling, where you can touch it and not get burnt. Okay, there's two parts. Let's pull these up. So for part one, we're just gonna take a glass, put some ice in it, take our thermometer, and measure the temp. Now, we did this quite a bit, and it takes a good long while. You can see that this ice is partially melted, and it's at a temperature of 0.9 degrees. It's probably gonna drop a little bit, and we'll see how low it gets during this video. But it hasn't melted yet, and we were at it for a good 30-something minutes. So we'll let it sit for a little while longer and then come back and see what happens to the temperature as time goes by. But your job was to take data points, right? I used a timer on my watch here, and collect data every 60 seconds for that, and then answer these questions as you went along. At the 10-minute mark, you wanted to start the condensation portion of the activity. For one, you should have felt some condensation on the outside of this, because it's mighty cold in there, and it's a lot warmer out here. You can see as when the thermometer falls out, the temperature goes up. When I put it back in, the temperature goes down. So we're trying to make condensation. You can see over here with these cups that we did make some condensation on the inside there. And so there's some pre-investigation questions to answer. And then you want to start off your setup like this. All right, you're just going to do one of these, okay? One of these setups. And just let it sit in there with the lid on for a couple of minutes, and then look at it closely and try and figure out how those drops of water, right? How these things appear in here. Because I certainly didn't do anything like squirt it up there. So how did all that end up there? And then at minute 18, you're gonna dump the water out of these, and then you're gonna fill up both of them so they have equally hot water in equal amounts. And then this is actually the second part of part two, right? You put two equal setups, and then take an ice cube and put it on top of one like that, and let it sit there for 2 to 3 minutes. All right, we're talking about this part right there. 2 to 3 minutes. And then take it off, give it a little wipe just on the outside so you can see better, and then look and see which one has more drops on the inner surface. And you can actually see this without wiping it with a paper towel, right? It's pretty clear. The one on the right has much larger drops on the inside. And so there's something about the ice on the outside being cold, and then the inside, is nice and warm, right? Because there's all that steam floating around in there. All right, that's water vapor or gaseous water, right? Gas stage, gas phase. So there's something about that warmth and lots of energy in there, and then the cold and less energy out here, that increase the rate of condensation. And so you need to talk about that in the rest of these questions right here. All right, and that's the whole thing, right? It's just exploring to see if we can affect the rate of condensation, to try and figure out how condensation occurs, and then also to see what happens with the temperature of a substance when it is melting. All right, so you're supposed to find a trend. And let's actually go back to the agenda for today. This is where we wrap things up. Right down here with these exit questions, right? What trend did you notice in the temperature? There's a pretty obvious pattern. So make sure you noticed it, because we're going to talk about it next class. All right, more review of part two. What phase change occurred? Like, did we go from a solid to a liquid, from a liquid to a gas, from a gas to a liquid, from a solid to a gas? Like, what did we do? All right, let's think about what these things are. Remember, we got liquid water down there at the bottom that's hot. We've got steam floating around in there. That's a gas. And then we've got all this condensation. And what would you call all these drops of water? Would you call them gas or would you call them liquid? What would you call a drop, like a raindrop? Something to think about when you're answering question C. Which cup had a higher rate of condensation? Well, we already talked about that. And then think about why that's the case. And do this if you have never done it before, right? During a shower, the mirror gets condensation on it because the mirror is hotter or colder than the steam. Think about that, all right? Whatever's happening there is the same thing that happened with the icy cup, with this one in the experiment. All right, so that's the deal. If you have questions, come by office hours.